Okay, Kings. The Kings are a very interesting team. They didn't have a lot of cap space, and then the first thing they did was throw it at a guy who is in his mid 30s, so we'll see how that turns out for them. But the Kings are coming off of a pretty solid season, although it didn't end the way that I think anybody envisioned. I remember going into the first round of the playoffs, I said, well, Vegas has had this nice fun run, but now they're against a playoff veteran team in the Kings. I'm taking the Kings to win this series. I think it was in 6 or 7. I couldn't have been more wrong. But despite that, I do think that this team has enough to stay in the playoffs. And it seems like there's some division on where this team's going to finish because they're in the Pacific. The with the exception of last place, really the Pacific Division is the one where the voting seemed to be a very wide range of responses, which I showed with Anaheim, Calgary, Edmonton, and now with LA as well. The LA Kings, 98 points this season, or this past season. 86 the year before, 102 the year before that, 95 and 100 in the 2 previous seasons. They seem to make the playoffs every second year, don't they? 2018, they lost in the first round. They missed in 2017. 2016, they lost in the first round. They missed in 2015. 2014, of course, they won the Stanley Cup. And that's what they're trying to get back to. The idea, I think, behind getting Kovalchuk into this roster is we believe that this core has one more cup left in them. That seems to be the thought process of general manager Rob Blake and team president Luc Robitaille. This is John Stevens' second year as coach. As I said, they made the playoffs in 2018, and they've made the playoffs 30 out of 51 seasons that they've played, which is a middling record for when you look at the 80s and how many teams made the playoffs. But honestly, the Kings went through some really dark times, and now they've had some good ones. And as I said, 2017 with 86, 2015 with 95. Those two were down seasons, and they bounced back. So from a 98-point season, what can we expect this year? I wouldn't be surprised to see them hit 100. And I wouldn't be surprised to see them hit 85. But I've made my prediction as well, and we'll get to that. Top 5 cap hits, Anze Kopitar with $10 million. Going into last season, we felt he was overpaid, and now most people look at that and go, that's about right. Drew Doughty, $7 million this year. It'll be $11 million next year. Kovalchuk, Brown, and Quick round out the top 5 in cap hits. But this is a team with $2 million in cap space. So there won't be anybody else getting added unless they move money out. Their plus player for me is Drew Doughty when he's on. When Drew Doughty is playing his game and he's not rattled, and Vegas rattled him, he is still, for my money, the toughest defenseman to play against in the NHL. But when he's rattled, it can kind of go the other way. And Doughty's not a popular guy in Vegas, and I can't wait to see games between Kings and Vegas this year because that is the official rival, I believe, of the Vegas Golden Knights. Even though they went through 4 rounds or four teams in there, I really think it's going to be LA, division rivals, and I think there was more hate in the series between these guys in Vegas than there was between San Jose and Vegas. Personally, that's how I saw it anyways. Minus player, I put FNUF. I put a question mark because honestly, I don't look at a whole lot of guys in this lineup and say minus. Can Brown do what he did last year? Probably not, but I can't qualify him as a minus player for that. FNUF only because if they rely on him for top 4, if he ends up getting top 4 minutes, that might be more than he's capable of right now. And it's tough because I really think that Dion Phaneuf gets viewed negatively as much as he does because of his time in Toronto, because it was Toronto. And when a guy's under a microscope, especially a defenseman, it's really easy to find holes in his game. The MVP of this team is Kopitar for me. You could make the argument as Jonathan Quick. You can absolutely make the argument that when they got that 86-point season in 2016-17 and missed the playoffs, Jonathan Quick's injury played a major role in that. But you'd be right either way. Kopitar, Quick, either works. Top 6 forwards, Iafallo, Kopitar, Kovalchuk, Pearson, Carter, Brown. That's likely the top 6. Kempe could get in there too, though. Adrian Kempe played really well last season, and I think he's going to move up. I am a huge fan of Alex Iafallo. I may not cheer for the Kings, and I don't, but Iafallo's a guy that I really, really liked last year. Um, and I think if his offense catches up with his work ethic, I think he could be a really solid top 6 player. He's got the speed, he's got the youth. They just need more consistent offense out of him, and then golden. Top 4 defense is tricky. Muzzin and Doughty are your top 2, absolutely. But Phaneuf and Martinez are your top 4 for ice time, but Fantenberg likely gets into that top 4. And Forbert has kind of stormed in. So I'm more viewing this as that's their top 6, and it's pretty solid. The Kings don't give up a ton of shots. The Kings don't give up a ton of goals. Quick and Campbell are their goaltenders. Now, Jack Campbell's an interesting story, too, because, of course, Campbell came over from Dallas and a trade for Nick Ebert. And at the time that trade goes down, nobody thinks anything of it. As a Dallas Stars fan, I'm like, yeah, Campbell's not going to make it anyways. And Ebert, an off chance Nick Ebert plays in the NHL. Probably not, but maybe. So it's not really a big deal. And here's Campbell as the backup. And he played well for the Kings when he was called into action. Can he be a backup over a full season? We may find out. If Quick gets hurt, how well does Campbell play? That's an interesting question, too. Now, as Jonathan Quick proved in the playoffs in the first round against Vegas, when he is on, he's fantastic. He is one of the best goaltenders in the league. He really is top, I would say top 5 when he's at his peak. But he's middling when he's in one of his cold streaks, and those do happen. The only addition to mention for this team is Ilya Kovalchuk. How Kovalchuk plays, how Kovalchuk fits in, how well Kovalchuk is still able to score goals at an NHL level will go a big way to deciding where the Kings go. If Kovalchuk can't score, can't keep up, if he falls out, this could get ugly, and we could all be very, very wrong about the LA Kings this year. I don't view them as a contender exactly, but it's hard to count a team out as a contender when you've got Quick, you've got Doughty, and Kopitar played the way he did last year. That's 3 big hits right there. Top first-line center, top 2 defensemen who can play 30 minutes a night, and a goaltender who can shut things down. Those are 3 things that really help you become a Stanley Cup contender and potentially win a Stanley Cup altogether. Now, for potential rookies, Gabe Vilardi has been talked about as a guy who's opened some eyes for the LA Kings. I was really surprised last year when he dropped in the draft and ended up going to LA, and it looks like he may make his debut for them this year. Daniel Brickley, a defenseman, got into 1 game for them last year. He may very well play a role on that blue line should someone get hurt, or should they get off to a slow start and they need somebody else in there. Brickley may end up being the guy who gets in there. There are other defensemen as well, but he's the rookie. Interesting, and I thought I'd put him on the board. Number 3 that I can see on their depth chart in net, I honestly would go with Cal Peterson. I think that Peterson's the guy they'd end up calling up if they need to call somebody up. And he put up a .910 save percentage in the American League, and he may very well end up being called up. And again, this is only because I'm looking at it and saying, can Jack Campbell play a full year in the NHL? It took him a long time to get here. Maybe, yes, sure. But I've got to look at this and say maybe, I don't know. And that's just me talking again. But I don't know a whole lot about Peterson other than his numbers at the American League level were okay. It was good. He put up a 1-3 record in the American Hockey League playoffs. Again, his numbers weren't bad. So, again, we'll see. In terms of their rookies, Kempe and Iafallo were the big debuts last year. And Fantenberg is the young guy on the blue line. And Campbell in net. Now, where the channel had things going, this is where it gets really interesting. 8.6% said first place. That's not insignificant. That 8.5 out of 100 people said yeah. 14.6% said second place. That means 23% think that LA is good enough to be first or second in the division. Now, is that because people see the Pacific Division as weak, or is that because they see the Kings as strong? That's the question. Third place, 21.7% said third, 21.2% said fourth, 14% said fifth, sixth, 11.2%, 6.8% said seventh, and then a 0.9% margin of the channel forgot that the Canucks or Canuck fans voted Kings. I don't. Why would you think that the Kings? How? Why? It can't happen. It just can't happen. I can't see it. It's not in the realm of possibility that the Kings, to me anyways, would finish 8th. Where do I have them? I'll just go ahead and put the asterisk there. I have them in 3rd. I'm in agreement with the largest number of people on the channel that I think the Kings probably finish 3rd. Again, do I see them as a contender? Well, if you're 3rd, you're on the road to start the playoffs. But the Kings seem to like being on the road to start the playoffs. Both years that they won the Cup, 2014 and 2012, they were underdogs. And it's going to be an interesting run. It's going to be an interesting season because there are some older players on this roster. It kind of feels like Chicago. Chicago won the 3 Stanley Cups. They keep everything together. They add some pieces that are maybe older, maybe going back in time to try to put the band back together, and it fell apart. Now, I'm not saying that'll happen with the Kings, but for a team that got swept in the first round, just bringing in Kovalchuk, I don't know that solves all the problems. Or was it just a matter of they ran into a Vegas team that was just so hot, and a Marc-Andre Fleury who was playing out of his mind, and that won't happen to them again. Because any other series, any other year, the way that Quick played in the first round would get you at least into the second round. Because I can't discuss how Quick would have played in the second round, only how he played in those first 4 games of the playoffs, all losses. And it's going to be interesting to see if this team does take that step forward. Are they going to be better? Can Rob Blake make this team a Stanley Cup champion again? That's the question I have for you guys. Are the Kings declining? Are they staying steady? Or are they going to move down? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video, browsing around the internet. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.